Welcome to the Business of Dance podcast, where you'll learn what it takes to create your dream professional dance career.
Join us as we dive into the insights and experiences of the world's top dance industry professionals, including dancers, choreographers, agents, casting directors, educators, and other dance industry experts.
We explore a diverse range of topics, from personal development and mental skills to audition techniques, creating meaningful industry connections, social media marketing, seeking out dance agents and casting opportunities, on-the-job etiquette, talent unions, pitching to the media, health, finances, and so much more.
Here is your host, Menina Fortunato.
So I'm excited about today's guest. She's someone that I have known for many years, although we have not seen each other in the flesh in a very long time. She started training very early as both her parents were professional ballet dancers. So she started off as a ballet dancer, training at Pacific Northwest Ballet, San Francisco Ballet, Boston Ballet, and eventually Oregon Ballet Theater when she was only 17 years old. And then fast forward, she transitioned into the commercial world of dance, moving herself to Los Angeles, and has literally worked with every single recording artist that you can imagine, from Beyonce, Chris Brown, Usher, Britney Spears, J-Lo, Ariana Grande, Missy Elliott, Ciara, Miley Cyrus, Neyo, Cardi B, Snoop, Pitbull, Nicki Minaj, Christina Aguilera, Pharrell, Rihanna. She's been on shows like The Voice, Ellen, Jimmy Kimmel Live, America's Got Talent, the VMAs, the AMAs, Super Bowl, Coachella, BET Awards, Billboard Awards, Latin American, Grammys, and the list goes on. She's also a resident teacher at Playground LA, known for her signature beautiful lines and heels class. Please welcome Larke Hasstedt. Welcome.
Hi.
So good to have you. And we were totally reminiscing blast from the past before we started recording. But before we even go into all that, I actually want to start at the beginning. I don't know the early years of Larke. So you're born into a dance family of classical dancers. Tell me about that. How did that start?
Yes. So both of my parents were professional ballet dancers. My mom danced with San Francisco Ballet and my dad danced with National Ballet of Canada. So they were both very well respected in their careers, and they were like the real deal. So I basically came out of the womb dancing. So yeah, I was born in San Francisco, and then we moved to Washington eventually when I was 3 or 4 years old. And my mom, she opened up her own ballet school in this small town in Washington. So I started training when I was very, very young. And I think what happened was that she realized I had a little bit of talent. She was like, okay, you're pretty good at this. I'm actually going to take you out of my school and I'm going to put you with the big kids. I'm going to go put you in a professional school in the city where you're not learning from your mom and you're not the best in the room. So not that she didn't have the accolades to teach me and to train me, but I think she just knew what it took. And we were in a small town, and sometimes just the professionalism and the environment make a big difference. And, learning from your mom can be a beautiful thing, but can also not quite take it as serious. So she was like, no, you're going to go play with the big kids. She put me in P&B at that time. So that was an hour away from our house. And so I started there when I was probably 7, I want to say. So I grew up in one of the biggest schools in the world, and it was only ballet. There was no other styles of dance, and it was very professional. Pink tights, black leotards, slick bun, piano, Marley floors, you're in pointe shoes by 11 years old. And I also think she knew what she was doing by putting me in that school, because you also have the company all in the same facility. So the company, you get to see whatever they're working on, Romeo and Juliet, Swan Lake, Nutcracker, all of these things. So you are getting to see your goal as a kid live and in front of you. So it's very inspiring. So I started out in the ballet world every summer. So every summer when you're younger, you audition for summer schools. So I started auditioning for San Francisco Ballet, Boston Ballet, all these things. So you would go away for a 6-week summer program. And it's almost like college scouting. So because you can go and then see the company. Is that the company that I eventually want to be in? So that's what I did every summer. I would go to these schools and I would train. One summer, When I was like 15 years old, I had heard about Oregon Ballet Theater having like this amazing summer program. And to be honest, I didn't even really want to go to that school because I didn't feel like it had the name that was like as big as New York City Ballet or Boston Ballet. But everyone kept saying, no, that this school is the best training. So that was the best thing I ever did, because when I went to this summer program, the company director ended up seeing me when I was like 15 years old, 16 at the time, maybe. And he offered me an apprenticeship with the company. So what happened was I went there for the 6-week summer program. The company, they offered me an apprenticeship. I went home, packed my bags, and I moved to Oregon when I was 16 years old. I moved out on my own.
Wow.
So I homeschooled. I did like 1 year with the company as an apprenticeship. And for those who don't know, apprenticeship is like you work a real job, but you just don't get paid. So it's every day for a year, I was like apprenticing with the company from like 10 a.m. company class to like 6 p.m. And then I would have to do the school at night. And that school wasn't like an educational school. It was like the ballet school. So then I had to go from like 6:30 to 8:30 or 9 o'clock every night. So I would go from company rehearsals, company class from 10 to 6. Then I would go from school from like 6:30 to 9. Then I would go home and have to like somewhere do homeschool, which that really never happened, to be honest. My dad really did a lot of that for me. Shout out to my dad for getting me to get through the schooling part. It was just not realistic at the time. My days were so long and so difficult. And I was coming home at night, sewing point shoes, taking, Epsom salt baths and doing it all the next day. So yeah, I moved out 16, apprentice for a year. Then after that, I got a contract to be in the company when I was 17, almost 18 years old. And that's when I joined the ballet company. And that was like the start of my life, at that point. So growing up, I never did like any other styles of dance. I never went to like a competition or jazz or hip hop or tap or anything like that. It was literally ballet my whole life. That's kind of the early days.
That is so wild to know where you are now, to know that that's your beginning, because your career path took a very different turn later. So you're immersed in the ballet world. You pretty much don't even know anything else but ballet at this point. You're 17, 18 years old. You just started the professional ballet company. Then what happened? What led you to go down a different path? What was there at a pivotal moment that happened that inspired that? Were you just rebellious and decided to quit, or did ballet quit on you? Or
yeah, it's kind of like all of these things. So basically, the director of Oregon Ballet Theater at the time, he was probably the most influential person in all of my dance training from when I was young to now. And he just was the most inspiring, amazing director that I'd ever had. He pulled things out of me that I never thought I could do. His choice of work was just like, yes, we did like the Nutcracker and the Romeo and Juliet and Les Sylphides and all the classics. But he also had this beautiful contemporary side where he did story ballets and things like that. And he was there for 7 seasons. And then he ended up leaving. And then they brought in a new artistic director for my last season there. Well, at the time, I didn't know it was my last season, but it was my last season. They brought him in, and he was from San Francisco Ballet. He wanted to do all Balanchine work. He wanted to make our company basically like a little mini New York City Ballet. I just didn't have that body type. I wasn't long and thin and flexible. And I was more of like an emotional, like dancer, storyteller. And yes, I had the technique, but I had to work very, very hard at what I achieved. Yes, I got into a ballet company at a very young age. And yes, that was the big thing. But I had to work very, very hard for all of what I got because I was not naturally a ballet dancer. With all of that being said, when the new artistic director came in, the whole company changed, all the works. And I knew at that time that it just wasn't for me. It wasn't a right fit. So I was already thinking, I'm going to leave. I'm going to either join another ballet company or something has to change. Now, let's pause the story and go back a little bit to my other side, which is like my hip hop LA story and where this began. So when I was living in Portland, and one night I went out to this club and I was going to go see Black Eyed Peas, this concert. And it was Portland, and I kind of knew everyone. It was like a pretty small town. I'd been there for a while, and like you just know everyone in the dance community. So I go to see this show, Black Eyed Peas, like they're performing, and I see this like circle, and I see like all these dancers like freestyling in this circle. And I was just like, who is this? And so I'm like watching, and like what I was seeing in that moment changed my life because I didn't know anything about it. And like I didn't even understand it, but I was so drawn to this freestyle, the way that they were moving. It was so amazing. And I just was so affected by it. I ended up talking to one of the people, and it happened to be Eddie Morales.
Ah,
Yes, Eddie. Shout out to Eddie.
was
And
he on
so-
tour with Black Eyed Peas? Was he
Yes.
on-
So we're talking, and he's like, yeah. I'm like, who are you guys? Like, what is this? This is so dope. And he's like, oh, we're all dancers for Justin Timberlake. We're on tour. So Black Eyed Peas was the opening act for the Justin and Christina strip tour. So I had went to this Black Eyed Peas concert. The next night, he was like, yeah, Black Eyed Peas opens for us. We have a show tomorrow. I'll get you tickets. Because he thought it was really cool that I was like in a ballet company and like whatever. So he gets me tickets to the show. I go to the concert. Somehow I'm in the pit. It's like the best seats. And I'm just sitting there right there at the stage, and I'm watching these dancers, icons like Melanie Benz and Marty. And I think it was like
was Tony
Maris.
Rich? Was Tony Rich with them?
No,
Maris?
no, it
Maris
was,
from
I
Paris?
think Maris from Paris. I think Melanie Benz. I want to say Roger Lee. Like,
Oh,
yeah. And then
gosh,
you had
love
all
him.
of and then Christina, it was a co-headline tour.
okay. So
then
Christina's tour,
Christina
that's
performed,
like
and it
Tiana. Yes.
Yes,
Oh my
like
gosh,
it
my
was like,
girl.
and mind you, I was not a dancer that like I hear so many stories like we're like, oh, I grew up watching like Michael and Beyonce, like all these people. I didn't know anything. I was a ballet bunhead. Okay, like that was my life. I didn't, of course, I like watched videos, but I wasn't like learning the choreography and knowing the dancers, and that wasn't my world. So when I was watching the show, and at the time, I didn't even realize what I was seeing. I was seeing the best dancers in the world, and I was blown away. And I just remember like, yeah, like Tiana, just all these people who now I look back and I'm like, whoa, like that night, like changed my life, 100% changed my life. That led to me and Eddie staying in touch. Then months later, he was like, hey, there's this show. You're going to laugh at this. Because like nobody even knows I was on this, and I never talk about it. But he's like, there's this show that Wade Robson is doing. And he's like, you should audition to like
the Wade Robson project?
I was on it, girl. I was on the show.
Tiana
And
was
that's
on that
right.
show too. Was that the same year?
I think there was only like 1 year. It was like
Oh, it was just like
Twitch
one
and
season.
Jersey and David Moore.
You were one of those kids. I had no
Yes.
clue.
So, mind you, how I even got accepted onto the show, like, I don't know, because I knew nothing about this life. When I say nothing, I like was a ballet girl. Like, I was like trying to be a hip hop dancer, but I really like knew nothing. But I met Twitch, and I met like Jersey, and I met all these like amazing people who like went on. And so after that show, I didn't do very well on the show. I got about halfway through, and then it was me and Jersey roasted me. And it was crazy. It was
That's
a
so
crazy.
funny. I probably saw you dance, and I didn't even know
I'm
who
sure
were
you
at the
did.
time. Because I totally watched that show. I used to take Wade's class all the time.
Yeah.
during the
And
height of that
again, it
show.
was like, I didn't even know how iconic Wade was. I mean, of course, like before I went, I did all this research, and I was like, whoa, well, you know what I mean? But even when Eddie was like, you should audition for the show, I didn't even realize the magnitude.
what
I
you were auditioning for.
What was that? Yeah. And like, what was going to be like required of me or any of these things. So I was in way over my head. I got about halfway through the show. And then I went back to Oregon because I was in a contract in like a ballet company. So all of those other kids moved to LA. They got agents. They capitalized off the show as they should. They all did so well. And I just went back to my ballet life, and I was in a contract. So that's where the kind of like seed and the bug was planted in me in this like LA life. So cut to the new director of Oregon Ballet Theater comes in. I knew I needed to make a change. It was no longer feeling like a right fit. And the LA thing always was in the back of my mind. I go and I audition for another ballet company, which I actually got a contract for. They offered me a contract. And so I had this contract in my hand. And then I had this hope and dream and just like a what if about moving to LA. And I just packed my stuff and moved to LA, knowing no one, knowing like other than Eddie and just like the few people that I had met years before on the Wade show. Looking back, it's actually like the craziest decision. Even when I told
thing,
the pulse, and sometimes like, the scariest decisions end up being
the best decisions.
Best decisions.
You got to take a risk.
You have to, because that was the thing. I always said to myself, I don't want to be in this place of what if, like years go by and I'm like, would I have ever made it? Or, what if? And that's like not a place that you ever want to be in. So with that being said, I moved to LA and I gave myself 1 year and I said, you know what, I'm going to keep up with my technique. I'm going to take my ballet classes. I'm going to really be prepared that after a year, if nothing happens, if like I don't get an agent, I don't book or something, then I'm going to go back to company life and ballet life. And then I can at least say I tried. So anyways, 1 year, I give myself 1 year to say that I always tell my students now, like, it takes time. It takes time, don't give up. It takes time. But with my situation, I just felt I gave myself such a specific time limit, which actually was kind of good because I was so adamant when I came out here because I had this ticking time thing that I was just always up against. So I was like, I have to get signed. I have to be seen. So I was relentless. I went to the agents to try to get signed and they're like, oh, we're going to have an audition in like 3 or 4 months or something. And I'm like, no, I cannot wait that long. So I eventually talked to one of the agents at Clear to come. I was Brooke Lavin, actually.
Okay.
Do you remember Brooke from Clear?
I don't remember.
It was like Brooke and Pete and like, anyways.
Yeah.
So I convinced them to come watch me take a Shane Sparks class at the Dome. Yeah. Wild. If you know about the Dome, shout out to the Dome.
Yes, the Dome, that's a classic place.
Because they knew me. The only resume or anything that I had to show them was this ballet company. So I was like, I want to show them that I can do hip hop. So Shane Sparks. So they ended up coming, watching the class. They ended up signing me. I just started auditioning and working really quickly, honestly. I was very, very blessed. And I started getting small jobs here and there. And well, my first job ever was with you, with Pony Boy, with Richie Jackson, which is actually so crazy.
Terrible.
That was terrible. And then I think like right after that, Fatima hired me for Jessica Simpson. It was like for the Dukes of Hazzard movie. For the days the boots are made for Walking with Jessica. And it was like the theme song for the movie. That is
so you. I could
So it was like, it was all these amazing people like Julianne Waters. It was just like a good group. And I was like, wow, like this is so cool. So that was my first real job other than Pony Boy, which we won't even count. We won't even count that one.
No, it's a terrible music video. Debrat was in it. Yeah, it was not.
Yeah, I wouldn't even count.
I wouldn't even put that on my resume.
I know. I'm like, shh, Menina, be quiet. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, so like
from that job, because I was like, who's this blonde girl? Like, because I think you were the new kid on the block. I didn't know who you were, but you were good. I just remember
green.
You just stood out to me. I just remember it was just I just worked on it for like one day. It was just in and out, and then I think I feel like I saw you again when you were touring with Ciara. I don't know how long after that was.
I booked Ciara probably like a year and a half after I had moved out here. So I did the Boots video with Jessica Simpson, with Fatima, which is great. And then my next thing that I did, it's kind of a crazy story. I had got a call from my agent and they were like, can you go to this casting to be like an extra in a music video? So, and they don't tell you like who it's for and like whatever. So you drive to Santa Monica and do like a casting, you're like in like some office building. Like it's not like a dance audition. You're just kind of like bebopping around to be an extra in a music video. So I do that. I go home. I don't really think anything of it. And I get a call from my agent that night and they're like, so casting is asking if you can dance and pick up choreography, blah, 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 because you have no resume essentially. And this is for a Britney Spears music video. And they had already cast 4 girls. And when they saw me at the casting, they said, you know what, so basically the theme of the video was Britney wanted like 4 girls who like were kind of her
Blonde.
twin. Yes.
Yes.
Do Something was the video. We were like flying around in like a pink Hummer in the video. So that night I get a call and they're like, oh yeah, so we're actually going to hire you for rehearsal. It starts tomorrow with Britney. And I was just like, what? I couldn't even like wrap my head around it. So I like go to this rehearsal. Here she comes walking in with her like bodyguard and her chihuahua. And I'm just like sitting there. And the other 3 girls, like they knew each other. I didn't really know anyone. It was just, I was having like an out of body experience, just like trying to be cool and like play it like, okay, yeah, I do this. But inside I was like, what the heck? This is wild. So yeah, that was kind of my first experience with Britney, was doing that music video. And then our relationship picked up kind of down the road. Again, I had to dance for her later and had a very
like a little
very
tour with her when she
oh
went
my
with
gosh,
this
yeah,
blonde girl theme. And
yes.
was it
So
Coachella
after that,
also with you?
Yeah, so that music video, the Do Something video happened. And then there was a long break in between like me dancing for her again. And then after that, that's when I went and I auditioned for Ciara. And that was the tour that really put me on the map and like changed my life. And that's when like Jamaica found me at this audition. Again, like we were at the Dome. It was just that crazy audition. I remember like back in the day, like we would audition where it was like white girls and blondes, and then all the different ethnicities would go in like groups because there could only ever be like one blonde or one
You
white
were
girl.
always the token blonde in every R&B or hip hop project. Am I wrong in saying
definitely. But what's funny about that audition is that like, I was still very new. I was still, I had done like a couple videos here and there. And yes, it was like with Britney and like Fatima, but I was still very green. So that audition, it was crazy. It was Jamaica. It was like Al Jamal, and it was very hip hop, very Atlanta, like ATL. Like it was just the root of such great energy. And again, that was still new to me. What is crazy is that there was another blonde at the audition who it kind of came down to me and her, a couple of us, I guess. There was like a moment where we had done the choreo and then we had to freestyle. And I was not like a good freestyler. And then the girl who went before me, she started doing ballet and her freestyle. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, can you even do that? Can you even mix these 2 worlds? Like, I just thought it was so taboo, like that you would mix the 2 worlds. So I'm kind of happy that she went before me, because otherwise I wouldn't have even known to like pull out all your stops. Right. And so I ended up busting out. I did the combo. It was very hip hop. And then I like did like this like ballet thing at the end. I don't know. Long story short, I ended up booking the tour, booking the job. And that was the main thing. When I had that relationship with Jamaica, that is what really put me on the map to then go on to do like Usher and like Chris Brown and like be like more of that like token girl. It was just that tour with Ciara, like really, really blessed me. It was so much, it was just right timing. It was just one of those blessings. And on that job, it was just so many amazing dancers. It was like Flo Master and like Edmore and like Binky and Les, like people who were vets who took me under their wing and really taught me the proper etiquette and just like, this is tour life. I know I learned so much on that tour because of those amazing dancers that were on that job. So that was a huge blessing for me.
And what a contrast though, because I saw that Ciara tour, the style of dance was polar opposite.
When I tell you, I thought when I moved to LA, I was going to like be more of a Marguerite Derricks or like, in the vein of like the technical worlds. Right.
Yeah.
And I couldn't have made like a harder left turn and like gone down the whole opposite road. And what was crazy is that Jamaica, when she first hired me for that job, which was all hip hop, she would have me come into rehearsals and she would be like, watch these girls, like study them. It was like, oh, Than and like all these like legends where she would just be like, I see something in you, but you have to pick up the essence of it. You have to like, because everything in ballet, everything that like you train your whole life for, everything is just the carriage is so up. And then in hit like all those jobs, I had to like really like learn the pocket and learn the swag, because you see most ballerinas and true ballet dancers, they don't have that pocket. They just don't. Like, it's just something that, I don't know, like it was just something that was like in
It's
me.
not
And yes,
taught.
it's not taught. Exactly. And so it was my two gifts, like they were just very opposite. And it ended up being like such a blessing. Jamaica just saw something in me and she just like really took me under her wing. And she was like, study these girls, study the in-betweens. And like I said, like I was okay, I could figure it out, but like freestyle and all that stuff, like that was never my strong suit and stuff like that. So because everything I learned was just so opposite.
What's funny is when I had seen you on the scene, I had no idea you were a classical dancer. Like I literally did not see that side of you on those jobs.
I worked very hard to undo kind of
like
everything that I had
did
learned.
That so well. Like I honestly didn't even know about your ballet background until Tavares had said something on social media. I was like, ballet, Larke?
Yeah.
And I didn't know until reading your bio just this past week that you even came from parents that are ballet dancers. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
How come I did not know this about you?
It's interesting because like, I hear other people, like talk about, there's other dancers who have obviously made it in the industry who have ballet backgrounds. You have like your Amy Allens and your Trishas and like people like that who do have a ballet background. But I just don't think it was, my ballet upbringing was so intense. It was just very, very, very classical. There was no other style. So I had no other range, so for me to go from this like very, very like prestigious ballet world and onto a professional ballet company, then to like all of a sudden be on tour with like Ciara twerking, and like it was just such a crazy leap. And yeah, like when I was like telling my parents and everyone that I was like leaving to move to LA, they're like, what? Like you're throwing everything away that you've worked so hard for, and like, this is the biggest mistake. But that gave me so much drive to want to like come out here and make it and prove everyone wrong. You know what I mean? It kind of like gave me that like, yeah.
You did that. I mean, you kind of hit every stage, every artist. Is there a particular job in mind that stands out as one of your most memorable, groundbreaking, fun, or even like, artist, if someone that you worked with that was really inspiring?
Yeah. I mean, I think like the moments when you do Super Bowl, like you kind of like, those moments are just like, whoa, like it's so amazing. And you kind of just look around and like the environment and you're like, wow, this is incredible. There was like one time it was like in maybe my Ciara days, I did like rockin' Dick Clark's New Year's, rockin' like whatever that New Year's Eve performance. And you're like in Times Square, you're performing, you're like watching the ball drop. Those moments, you're like, whoa, like this is crazy. There's moments that stick out. I mean, there's so many, to be honest, but there are like those key pivotal moments. And like, there's just nothing like a live audience or like even like on, award shows when it's like televised and like the rush and the like, there's just nothing like it. All of those moments have like such a special place in my heart. So it's hard to pick one. And as far as who my favorite artists are, it's so hard to even say who my favorite artist is, because I feel like I learned so much from each person and they're so different. And you can't really compare like Beyonce to like Snoop. Do you know what I'm saying? Because like as a dancer, when you're dancing with Beyonce, like just the energy and the expectation and the level of how great everyone is and like the level of expectations that they put on you and the pressure sometimes. And like it's a lot, but you're growing constantly, whether you feel it in the moment or not. Like when you look back at those jobs as a dancer, you're like, wow, like that was a push. It was hard. It was challenging. I may have cried a few times, but you grew as a dancer. When I was on tour with Snoop, it was fun and it was a party and it was, I don't know, it's just different. It's apples and oranges, so it's like, you can't really.
Snoop Ballet Company.
Literally. And I think that like, I need to talk about this more because it's just, I don't ever really talk about it, to be honest, but the extreme different worlds, even just like the world, being in like an opera house and like dancing where you have like a full orchestra pit, and you're like warming up and breaking in your point shoes and like you're in like a tutu, and like the work ethic and just like the demand is so intense. Being on tour with Snoop Dogg for years. And that's a job that I did for many years. You know what I mean? And what's crazy about when I say like I toured with Snoop, what was cool about that job was it was a lot of dancing and it was a lot of hip hop, but it was also, we were wearing heels and we did like really beautiful, like sexy numbers. And then we even had like a hint of like some contemporary stuff. So as a dancer, I know you think like, oh, I'm on tour with a rapper, but it was actually a very fulfilling as a dancer. And I think that's one of the reasons I stayed for so long, because it was actually like very fulfilling as a dancer. And we were treated so amazing. And I got to see so many like amazing places and traveled. Oh my God, we did, we went to the coolest places. And so that's the thing as a dancer. Sometimes you can think, oh, I'm going to be right for these jobs. But then a job like that comes in. I never thought, oh, I'm going to go tour with Snoop. Ended up being an amazing job. So it's just like, you never know.
That's hilarious. Well, I could talk to you all day. I'd love for our business of dance mentees to have an opportunity to chat with you, because we've got some dancers that want to go the classical concert dance, but then we have some other dancers that want to go more commercial. So I think you can really bring the two worlds, because you've collided the two worlds and can speak on the two worlds. That's really, really cool. I also want you to touch on, at some point, I'd love for you to touch on your class. You've migrated into the teaching space, and you've one thing too, before I open up for Q&A, that I admire so much about your heels class is I do see your classical training in your heels class.
Thank you.
I do see like you've got the most gorgeous lines. And it was funny because when I interviewed Aaliyah Janelle this summer, she was one of the dancers that asked like, what are the top teachers to take from? And she mentioned you. And she said that she'd done private lessons with you. And she's like, oh my gosh, I want to be like Larke. Larke has just got every line that every girl ever dreams of. And I see that, like, and then what's cool about too is, even though the heels world has evolved so much since we started, you keep it classy, which I really respect. And it's hard, like it's technical. Like I can tell you make something so simple, just so graceful at the same time. And you're long, I don't know. It's just gorgeous to see. So dancers, if you've never seen her class videos, you got to go watch.
I appreciate you saying that, because I think sometimes like if you just watch the video and you don't really know, it might look like easy, but it's actually very, very challenging.
No, so, I see that.
That's the key. That's like our job as an artist, is to make something look effortless when actually it's like very, very hard.
No, you make it look effortless. You make it look like it's easy as pie, but I'm like, that is not easy.
No, it's funny because it's like, people say when they take my class, they're like, oh my God, it's like taking a ballet class in heels. Because I teach at the Space in Brea, Yeah, like she's just like, oh my God, like your heels class is like a ballet class, in heels or whatever. So I take that as the, the ultimate compliment. So.
Well, I think it's cool though, because you bring a different element to the heels dancing space, because most of the heels is more the hip hop street version with heels.
Yeah.
You kind of added a classical twist, but with the modern day vibe and
it's funny how everything like kind of comes full circle.
It all came together. It seems like
it all comes full circle. I mean, like even collided. Like even going back into my career as a dancer, you watch the kind of evolution happen where when girls, were on tour back in my day, like when I danced for like Usher and stuff like that, it was like a lot of it was we weren't in heels. The girls and the guys, like we were doing a lot of the same choreo. And not until later did the girls start wearing a lot of the heels and like, like more like sexy outfits and like stuff like that, where what kind of kept, I think, my longevity was like the fact that I was able to kind of morph back into like the heels and the sexy, because that was my root really, which is like the ballet. So it's like that transition for me felt natural and good, you know what I mean? Whereas there was like a lot of working dancers back in the day, and then they like didn't want to put on heels. They were so amazing at their craft, but they were like, oh, I don't want to wear a heel and I don't want to be sexy. You know what I mean? So for me, I loved it. I was like, let's do it. Like it's very my root,
Well, you created a signature style with your class. It's very different from the other heels teachers that are popular right now. So you've carved out your little niche. I know we haven't talked in a long time, but I comment every now and then. And I'm like,
thank you. No, it's always cool to see like, what people do after dance. So.
All right. So let's go down our list here. So I'm going to bring up Peyton.
Hi, I'm Peyton Shively, and I'm 11 years old. I'm from Florida. My question is, what song did you do for Britney Spears?
Yeah, so the first time I ever worked with her, I did a song called Do Something, and that's the one we were like in the music video and like a pink Hummer. And then later I had worked with her again doing the VMAs, and that was like kind of her comeback. And then later I did like a little tour with her where it was called the Eminem tour. And basically she went under an alias and we did all of the House of Blues,
Yes. I remember that.
whatever.
That
And
was
so,
her like rebellious stage.
and that was
right?
like Melanie Lewis and like myself. And like, it was like the four blondes. That was a time for sure. That was like definitely
That was
a
a time. Nice way to
that
put
was
it.
a time. Love Britney. Shout out to Britney. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Peyton. All right. Next up, we have Lila.
Hi, I'm Lila. I'm 16 and I'm from Grand Rapids, Michigan. And my question is, what qualities do you find to be essential in a dancer that has a life like you've lived as like a backup dancer and just everything all across the board?
So one thing that I look for and that I find impressive is versatility. And I feel like, we always want to train in the styles that we're good at, which is like obviously because it feels good. But I think to have a long career and to have that longevity, I think you need to train in styles that you're maybe not comfortable in, because when you go into an audition, you don't know the choreographer, you don't know, what they're going to give in that moment. And sometimes in one audition, you could do 3 different styles. So if you're like really strong in heels, you know what I mean, but you're not as strong in hip hop, like go to those hip hop classes, go to the styles that you're, maybe not as confident in, and be as versatile as possible. That is always impressive to me. And that is something that's really helped me like in my career. And just like what I also love is just a hard worker. You know what I mean? I love like just like a hard worker, someone who's not afraid of the work, someone who's not afraid to like not be perfect and look silly, just like surrendering to the process, and that's how you become, I think, great, is just putting yourself out there. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lila. All right. Next up, we have Samantha. Introduce yourself. What is your question?
Hi, my name is Samantha Gray. I'm 11 years old and I'm from Palm Beach, Florida. My question is, if you were to change something from your past, what would you change?
I think like throughout my career, I think like if I would go back and do something different, I think I would enjoy it more. I think when I was dancing, I was always worried about the next job and the next thing and like feeling, so sad or like insecure when I wasn't working. And I think that I was always so worried about the next thing that I didn't just take a minute to really enjoy and look at all the cool things that I got to do and that I was blessed to do. So yeah, I just think like I would go back and enjoy it more and kind of like soak it in and be proud of myself. You know what I mean? Like I look back now at the things I've done. I'm like, wow, that's really cool. But at the time, I think I was such a perfectionist. I was very like critical and hard on myself. And so I think I would just give myself a little more grace.
Good advice.
Thank you.
Thank you, Samantha. All right, Jada, you're up next. Introduce yourself. What is your question?
Hi, my name is Jada Moeller. I am 19 years old and I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. And my question is, which are like your go-to places to like train in like LA?
Well, I teach at Playground. So if you're ever, out in LA, I would love to have you come teach. But I don't necessarily think it's about the studio. Like, I think it's about the educator and the teacher that wherever they may be teaching. And I think it's about finding the right teachers and like not being caught up in like the trendy classes, more so like the really educational classes, finding teachers that really have a foundation. They've done the work. For me, it's like, I would want to find someone that has done things that I would want to do. I'm going to look for the teachers that have had this certain career that maybe I want to follow in their footsteps. Somebody who's had experience. I think experience as a teacher adds such a like great layer to just a step. I just think that there's like, it's more about the teacher and where they're teaching as opposed to like the specific studio. So finding, and now everything's on social media. So it's you can follow these teachers and be like, oh, they're teaching here, and kind of go wherever they are as opposed to just like one specific studio.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jada. Next up, we have Kyla.
Hello, my name is Kyla Joyce. I'm 19 years old. I'm from Ontario, Canada, but I'm actually currently living and training in San Francisco. My question for you is, what were some things that you feel like you learned in your more classical career that have benefited you in your more commercial?
Mm. Well, I think the discipline in the ballet world is just unlike no other. I think the work ethic and like it just taught me like so much grace, how to carry myself, not only like the mental part of it and just like having like that grace and that like it's also just like the technique. The technique will save you every time. I truly believe in that. In all styles, I just feel like the technique will always be the foundation in any style. And that has like saved me time and time again. I don't know. I just think like in the ballet world, I feel like if you can get through that, like you can get through anything. Like it was serious and very like strict. And I think that carved my work ethic path out for me. So like that, I think was something that just carried through. And then even now, it's so funny because the way I teach is literally like how a ballet teacher would teach. So I think really full circle for me was like, because listen, no one teaches you how to be a teacher. Like no one really teaches you that. So I think you teach how you were taught. And I think like what I find myself as a teacher is that is my root of ballet. So how I teach is a big part of like that ballet background for me. So kind of all of those things. But yeah, the technique will always save you.
Thank you so much, Kyla. All right. Next up, we have Valeria.
Hi, my name is Valeria Antunes. I'm 16 years old and I'm from Norwalk, Connecticut. My question for you was, what was something that you learned from watching other people that had more experience from you when you were new to the commercial area?
That's a good question. I think like for me, like I was saying to Menina earlier, it's unlearning like basically everything that I had learned and like the pocket and the swag and like the cool factor. You know what I mean? Like I think I was such a bunhead in a lot of ways, you know what I mean? That I had to like learn how to, okay, so like for example, this is a funny story. When I was on tour with Ciara, everyone in the room was like very like laughing and joking and always like cracking jokes with the artist. And it was just like this big fun environment. And where I was from in like the ballet world, you don't speak during class. You don't say anything. You're very like, you don't, like blink and I barely breathe. It's very strict. And so when I was in those rooms with Ciara and the dancers who were like vets and stuff, I think what happened was she was thinking that I had like a bad attitude. She was thinking that I was just like very like stone faced and like stuck up and like that I didn't want to be there. So I'll never forget one time we were in rehearsal and I got pulled out of rehearsal into the hallway by Ciara herself.
Wow.
And yeah, and it was like in my mind, I knew I was getting fired. And I thought I was getting fired because I just wasn't good enough. I didn't have like the swag in the pocket. And the dancers on the job were so amazing. And I was just like, I'm getting fired. And then as she was talking to me, she was just like, you have like this energy where I don't know, like, it doesn't seem like you want to be here. We just want like someone who's really like grateful for this opportunity. And in that moment, there was two thoughts. I'm like, okay, if I talk, I'm going to cry, like where you're just like in your throat and you're so nervous. You're like, or just actually like speak up and say something. So somehow I like mustered up the courage to say to her, like, I'm so sorry that like I've come off this way, but like I am so grateful to be here. It means so much to me that like I take everything so seriously and I know I'm behind the other dancers. So on the breaks, like I want to be going over choreography. Like I don't really want to be like talking and like joking because like I just feel like I have so much catching up to do. I want this so bad. This means so much to me. And like I'm sorry if that's coming off as like a stoic way, but I also told her, I'm from this ballet world where like you don't speak unless you're spoken to. It's very strict. And this is all very new to me, but like I kind of figured I was getting fired anyway. So I was just like, I'm so grateful. And like this means so much to me. And like I'm so sorry that I'm coming off like that, because that is not what's going on inside my mind. So that conversation truly changed her and I's relationship. And then I think for some reason, she just kind of looked at me different after that. And she like respected my work hustle, and she respected, when I would be always going over stuff in the corner and like taking things really seriously. And then, like I just learned like, okay, like I can have fun, I can breathe, I can like speak openly and things like that. And so I learned a lot from my peers on that job. Like I said earlier, I learned so much on that job, but in the beginning, it almost like got me in trouble because I was so stoic and almost like scared. And just so that, that is something I learned, like believe in yourself, believe that you're there for a reason. And that like, she picked me for a reason. And that was like just something I had to like really work on, was just like believing in myself. So
This is so interesting how you were totally misread.
Totally misread
in that moment, but also kind of also an important part too is reading the room and knowing your environment, because maybe in the ballet world, being quiet and working in the corner would be praised. But in this environment, it was like, are you okay? Like, what's wrong with that
attitude?
Are you stuck up and too cool for school? Like you can't hang out and have a good time with these people? So I'm sure you learned very quickly that it's okay to have fun and smile and giggle. And when it's time to work, it's time to work. But then when it's off time, it's okay to like have a good time.
And again, it was just like these two different worlds, and like unlearning everything that I had like always known to be right. And then, and thank God I was like on a job with like such amazing people, and like, these like vets, and like they just like helped me in so many ways. And so
that is so wild. Well, I'm glad that you're able to speak about it openly, because you could have just got yourself fired. And
because you have that ball in your throat and you're talking to the artist, and sometimes when you're talking to the artist, like you get nervous, like you know what I mean, like you second guess yourself, and you're like, oh my God. And at that point, I was like, either I have to say something and kind of try to explain my side, or like I'm going home. So thank God I was able to like get the words out. Yeah.
Because you could have gotten fired and been like, oh my gosh, it was so great.
I know.
I was working so hard and I got fired.
And then that job went on to be like, I worked for her for like 3 years, it was a great run. So
and then
thank God I was able to.
Then it was like, okay, this girl's just serious business. That's all it is.
And then I think like she kind of like was like, okay, like I see it. And then like now I respect it. And so we kind of had like an
understanding at that point.
An understanding. Exactly.
That's beautiful. I love that. Thanks for sharing. Very cool story.
Thank you.
Great question, Valeria. All right, Cooper, you're up next.
Hi, my name is Cooper Brown. I'm 21 years old and I'm from Kansas City. And my question is, what is your choreographic process like as a teacher now, coming from two different worlds?
Okay, so this is actually really an interesting story. And I know like I've probably talked way too long, so I'm going to try to make this short. But I actually hate to choreograph. I hate it. I'm not good at it. And that goes back to like, I think the ballet days, and I never choreographed a solo. I didn't go to competitions in the ballet world. Like everything is told to you, like so specifically down to your pinky nail, like how you have your head. Like, so I never developed that skill of like thinking on my own and creating. Like I just never did, it was just so strict. Then when I moved to LA, I was very fortunate and I did work a lot. And so I never was teaching. I never was, I was just a dancer and constantly being told what to do. And I was kind of like soaking that all up. So I never developed that skill of choreography, and it did not come natural to me. So there was a time in my life when I was kind of coming to the end of my career, as a dancer, and thinking, okay, like I can't keep doing this forever. And I did dance for a very long time. I danced until I was 40 years old. You heard it here first. Yes. And so I had a very long career, but like, I was always like, what am I going to do after dance? Like, what am I going to do? I've literally done nothing but dance my entire life. And I have no, skills in the choreography department. So I was like, okay, like when I'd be on these jobs, I would watch like assistants, like so the choreographer and then their assistant. I was like, maybe I could be an assistant. But then I quickly noticed that the assistants were doing a lot of the choreography.
They're doing a lot of work.
And it would be like on the spot. They'd be like, oh, we need to change this. Like, oh, can you go and like come up quickly, like with this like change and choreographing on the spot? And I was just like, oh my God, that's my biggest fear. I definitely couldn't do that. So then I was like, I can't be an assistant. I can't be a choreographer. I can't be a teacher because in LA, I found that in order to teach out here, you technically had to be a choreographer because it was like about these combos and about this song and about the things. And like, it wasn't necessarily about like the training because in the ballet world, I keep going back to this. I know I sound like a broken record, but in the ballet world, you could take the same ballet class essentially like every single day because it was more about like strength training and warming up and like exercises. It wasn't about like creating steps. So I was like, oh my God, like, what am I going to do after dance? I can't teach because I'm not a choreographer. And, I got very scared, which is a whole other avenue that I went down. And I went down the makeup path. I don't know if you kind of know that. But long story short, like I ran into Trisha Miranda, who had went to Priscilla Ono's makeup school. And I was talking to her, like, I don't know what I want to do. And she's like, you should go to this school. I ended up going to Priscilla Ono's makeup school where Trisha went, and I got certified and I went that route. I went into the makeup route because I felt I can't teach, I can't choreograph. Like it's this block. It was this thing that a limiting belief that I put on myself because I had never done it. So I started going down the makeup path. What happened is that the heels thing started becoming this big thing where I started seeing all these heels classes and stuff like that. And people were reaching out to me, asking me, oh, can you teach? Can you teach? And I was just saying no. But what I started doing was privates. I started doing a lot of privates and I felt like I can coach and I can train and I can work with these kids without having this like choreography. I have to come up with a combo over my head. And in that process of doing a lot of privates is where I really said, okay, I'm actually really good at teaching and I do have a gift for this, which I never thought that I would ever go down that route. And through the process of coaching one-on-one, I ended up falling in love with teaching. And then I started being like, okay, I do need to like figure out this choreography thing in order to teach classes. Going back to the original question is my process is I start with the music. I find a song that I have to connect to a song. I love like a good slow like R&B song because it's very fitting to what I do, which is a lot of like lines and like ooey gooey movement. So I find like a really beautiful R&B song that has like a lot of like beautiful accents, start with a song, and then I go to like a timestamp in the song and I kind of like, I'll listen to that song over and over and over again. And then I kind of like choose like how I'm going to like, if I'm going to write the melody or the lyrics or whatever. And I kind of create this rough draft in my mind before I even do one step. So yeah, like I said, it starts with the music, finding this piece of the music, learning the music first, and then slowly starting to put steps to it. And it does take me a long time to choreograph something because I'm so picky and I like, it doesn't come natural to me. So I allow myself time. So if I know if I'm going to teach on this day, I allow myself a nice chunk of time so I don't run out of time and feel like I'm just putting something together that I don't love. So I always allow myself a lot of time. And the other weird thing about me is that I don't choreograph in a mirror. I'm so hypercritical of myself that I'll get caught up looking at myself sometimes so much that I can't get past like a few counts. So I have to choreograph without a mirror where it like feels good or it like feels yummy to me. And then later I'll go into the mirror and then I'll like see and I'll make sure everything looks good and the transitions feel right and stuff like that. But I do have an interesting process, but I'm not a natural choreographer. And that's why I never went down that road of working with artists and stuff like that, because I've always had this strange relationship with choreography. So now, like I'm okay with like, I can come up with a class combo and I feel confident, but it does take me time but I always start with the song and listening and studying the music and finding, the deeper levels. And the music is just like, for me, like a big thing. So I don't know if that helped at all. I'm sorry. That was just like 3 stories in one, but that's kind of my process. And I don't use assistants either.
You don't ever have assistants.
No,
it's always just you.
I don't use it because I think my process, I know it takes me longer to choreograph. So I feel like when I have an assistant in the room, I feel like I have to speed up the process. And I'm like, wait, why am I doing this for my assistant that I need to feel rushed into something? So for me, I just kind of like do it by myself. And I just give myself the time and the luxury because it is not something that comes natural to me.
So you've never like at least taken the time to create something and then teach it once it's done, teach it and then bring it into the studio?
So like with my classes, like everything is very mapped out. Like I have the combo like top to bottom mapped out. You know what I mean? That's why like really like for example, I choreographed for Chris Brown for a music video. And when the creative team had called me to choreograph for him, I said, I need the song before. I basically told them like, I need to know now before I go into the studio, because I didn't want to go into the studio with all the like dancers and be trying to create on the spot. That's just not something that like was natural for me. So I like had to have them like send me the song and like really ask all the questions before I got into the room. Okay, here's the thing. I think that there's different skills. Like being a dance teacher does not necessarily mean that you are a choreographer. Like you can be a choreographer and maybe not be the greatest teacher. And you can be a great teacher and maybe not be the best choreographer. So I kind of had to like play to my strengths. And I know I'm a great teacher. I just like was never confident in the choreography side. So I just give myself enough grace and time to kind of like do what I need to do in order to get the combo, if that makes sense.
Well, the finished product looks like you know how to choreograph. So I'm going to just put it out there. You got your own limiting beliefs to overcome because you can choreograph.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That means a lot. That means beautiful. A lot.
So maybe you just got to get over this mental block that you're dealing with. And then eventually you'll accept that, oh, not only am I a great teacher, but I'm also a great choreographer too. One of these days,
yeah.
You'll admit that to yourself. But
thank you. Thanks.
You can dance and you can teach and you can choreograph and you can do makeup. You've got a lot of skills.
Yes, my little side hustle that I still do a lot. I'm doing a lot of that these days, which is crazy.
That's fun. Hey, it's another creative outlet. It's a creative outlet. You talk about
it is a creative outlet.
It's another creative outlet. It's creation as well, just a different type.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Cooper. Great question. Next up, we have Anaj.
Hi, my name is Anaja Brianna. I'll be 25 this week, actually, and I'm from Philadelphia. And my question to you is, what do you think is the most significant thing any dancer should do transitioning from that ballet world to the heels and hip hop world and moving to a big city?
So for me, I came into this industry world from the ballet world, like completely humble, completely eager to learn and hungry. And I had to be okay with looking like not perfect. That was the thing. Like I always wanted to look perfect and like I knew what I was doing, but like sometimes you just have to surrender to the process of being uncomfortable to actually grow. For me, like I just had to take the ego completely out of it. And I had to know that like there was a lot to learn and that like, I was just in awe of so many people and I was like a sponge and I would take from everyone. I would be like, wow, I love this about her. I'm going to take that. And you think of it like a pot. No, I'm going to take the like, oh, I love when she has this like aggressive quality. I'm going to put this. And I love when she like hits the accents like this. And I would take all these things from everyone that I would see. And I would just kind of like put them in my pot. And eventually, like, I just felt so inspired by so many people. And eventually, like, it kind of created me through all of that. But I think being humble, being okay with like not being perfect at first and just really like surrendering to the process will get you there faster than like trying to like be perfect and just always look like you know what you're doing. It's okay to like come into something so green and admit like, hey, like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, can you help me? Like, I really love the way that you do this. Like, can you help me? Can you work with me on this or whatever? So I think it's just being really humble and being a sponge and just soaking it all in, you know?
Thank
Great
you.
question. Thank you so much, Anaja. All right, next we have Grace.
Hi, my name is Grace Lingenfeld. I'm 12 years old and from Omaha, Nebraska. And my question is, what strategy do you take with yourself to auditions to set yourself apart from other dancers?
In the audition rooms?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Auditioning for me was always so mental. It was such a mental thing for me. And I think for a lot of dancers, it's very mental. I think like learning the choreography, you have to kind of find what works for you. You know, like you have to like find what works for you. Like for me, like if I would find myself watching other dancers, like when they would go in groups, that would mess me up for some reason. I would have to go to the side and I would have to just mark it. Like I would just mark it over and over and over again and make sure that like my focus stayed within me and not so much on the competition in the room. When I just stayed laser focused, that was very, very helpful. Another thing that would throw me off sometimes is like when I would go and like maybe I would have like an outfit on that it wasn't me, because a lot of the auditions like they'll give you something and they're like, oh, dress this way or dress that way, and you would find yourself in outfits that maybe like weren't you. So I always would bring multiple options in my bag of like different outfits, because sometimes the choreography requires you to be more like hip hop based. And so I want to wear something like more baggy to fit that pocket, or I want to have options. If it's more sexy, I want to have like a more fitted outfit on. So I would always bring options for outfits, different shoe options, different, like all the things, you know. And I think that for me, my main thing was like staying laser focused on me and like really like going over the choreography a million times and not getting too caught up on what the other dancers were doing, because for me, that kind of messed me up a bit. So yeah, it was just like a very internal process.
So stay focused.
Stay focused. Yeah.
It's very easy to get distracted and
It's
intimidated, and you see somebody do an amazing job. You're like, oh gosh, I can't do that. Or I'm not good enough. And then you get in your head and
you get in your head.
it
You gotta
affects your
like stay with
confidence.
yeah, you got to stay with like with yourself. Like, you know, you just, because that's the thing at auditions, you're never going to be someone else. You're never going to give what someone else gives. Like, you just have to worry about giving the best version of you. Like in those moments, you have to like, just, okay, I want to do the best that I can do. And that's going to be different from her and her and her and him and him. It's going to be different. So you just have to worry about giving the best version of yourself in those moments. But it is very mental. It's very mental. And I think like you can train and you can prepare and you can like, you know, go to all these courses and you can do all the things. But there's something about being in that audition room that you cannot learn anywhere else than just being in the room. So I always tell my students, go to every single audition that you can go to every one that you're called to, because within all the programs and the classes and the mentorships and everything, no one's really going to teach you how it is to control your nerves in those rooms. You just have to do it. It's just one of those things that you just have to do and you experience. And then the more you experience those rooms, you find a way to like control your nerves. And, you know, everyone works different. Like for me, I would get so nervous when they would call your name. They'd be like, okay, like number 17, you know, and you're going and you're so nervous that a lot of the times dancers blank out, because you're just, you know, the artist is sometimes sitting there, you know, everyone's watching you. It's so much pressure that you tend to blank out. And so for me, I was like, okay, I get really nervous and in my head. So like I had to hold on to the first step. There was just like the thing, like people would freestyle a lot in the beginning and then they would mess up and they would like not be super laser focused. So for me, I'd like just really hold on to that first step always. Like even in my freestyle, I was thinking, okay, starts on the right, starts on the right, starts on the right. And I would hold on to the beginning of that step. I know it sounds weird, but I almost feel like I'm going to mark it, because on the side, you're marking it, you're in the pocket, you're cool. Then you get out there and your nerves take over and you start dancing so big, you start making mistakes sometimes. So I would just keep my cool, I would mark it, but then my energy and my adrenaline would take over and I would dance big and I would whatever. But in the very beginning, I would just kind of take this breath. I would hold on to the first step and I would really like stay laser focused. So like for me, like little things. And again, another thing that worked for me was I knew I was not a great freestyler. So at auditions, like you would do the combo and then you'd have to freestyle. And all the time I would like drive home and I'd be like, what was that freestyle? That was the wackest freestyle I've ever done. I've never even done those moves before. But because you're so nervous and you're not thinking clearly, you start doing things like that, your body just kind of takes over. So I was sick of going home and feeling disappointed in myself. So what I did, and this is just something that worked for me, was I choreographed like a little 4/8 count freestyle that kind of was just like 1 through 8, like nothing too intricate, but it showed my strengths and it showed like a calm and cool collected version of myself where I could connect to the table in front and I wasn't like scrambling to think of a freestyle because that was not a strong suit of mine. So I did choreograph this thing that I would just kind of use at all these auditions and I didn't, and it helped me from not looking like spastic and crazy. So I don't know. I think the other and final thing I'll say about auditions is that in the audition process, in the beginning, when I wouldn't get it, I would be so like, oh my God, I didn't get it. And why didn't I get it? And she got it and I didn't. And I would think of it as this like really negative thing. But eventually what I found that benefited me was like, okay, why didn't I get it? What could I have like improved on? What could I have done better in those rooms? So for example, I knew I couldn't freestyle. So then that's when I went and did something about it. And I worked on my freestyle and I choreographed this little thing. You know, it's like when you take a no and you actually like be like, okay, instead of just being mad or sad or upset, and you really are like, okay, what can I do to improve on this? Then everything is like a positive because you're just learning from these things. And eventually all of that hard work pays off. And then you start booking these jobs and you start getting more comfortable in those rooms because those audition rooms can be intense. It's intense. It's a lot.
That's not the same word. Intense is a good word.
It's intense. I just can't even imagine doing it now, but like
it's
we
hard.
did it.
It's hard.
We did it for so long.
Even after hundreds of times, it always gave me some kind of anxiety and stress. Like it just,
always.
It never felt easy. It always felt hard. The rehearsals, the performance, like I had no problem in that space. But for some reason, the audition was always a very stressful experience for me. So I feel you on that completely.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Grace. Next up, we have Caitlin.
Hi, my name is Caitlin Quinn. I am 19 years old and from Putnam Valley, New York. My question is there any resources or tools you recommend for young dancers to grow and improve?
We talked about it before. I think just like finding the right teachers and the right mentors is a big thing. I think taking like I said before, like the trendy classes and stuff like that, it's just not going to benefit you in the long, like, you know, you got to find really good educators that can like really pour into you and invest in your future and know like really truly what you need, not just like as a whole, but like your weaknesses and your strengths. I think, like I said before as well, training in styles that maybe you're not like super comfortable in, because like when you're on the job, like you never know what they're going to throw at you at an audition. You don't know what's coming. So I think like training in all styles and not just one style is like really going to be beneficial. And I think like continuing to take technique classes, it's just like you cannot go wrong. You just cannot go wrong. It keeps your body like really healthy and like strong. And I just think that continuing to take ballet classes and hip hop classes in all the styles is just so important.
Thank you so much, Caitlin.
Thank you.
All right. Next up, we have Ciara.
Hi, my name is Ciara Hayden. I'm 17 and I'm from Houston, Texas. And my question for you is, how old were you when you started booking jobs in LA? And during that year when you set that deadline for yourself, how did you keep doubt from taking over and stopping you?
Good question. when I moved to LA, I think I was 23, which in hindsight, like that was old, like, which is crazy, but it's like that was old because people were moving out here when they were 18. And I just felt like I was so behind. I felt like I was so behind and everyone had been out here. Even all those kids that I like had been on the Wade Robson project with, like they had already been out here for years. And so I think that the time that I gave myself that 1 year, like I was so determined to make it work. Like nothing was going to get in my way. I was like very persistent. There was not a day that went by that I didn't train in classes. There was not a day that I like did not harass my agents to like book me on something or what's going on, or even had to like really talk them into signing me. And then I think I was just really hungry. I was so passionate and hungry. And I felt like I was so inspired by like all of this opportunity that was around me and like what could be. And I could just see myself doing it. There was no other option in that moment. I just felt like I was so laser focused. I've talked about that a couple of times of just being like super, super focused and inspired. And yeah, I didn't want to like let people down back home. And I had all this like pressure on me from like leaving the ballet company. And so, yeah, I was hungry. I was hungry. I was passionate and I wanted it so bad. And that's the thing, like, I loved it. I loved it. And you have to love this art so much. You have to love it so deeply with everything that you have. And I feel like, I don't know, it was just like my passion, I think. And yeah, there was just so many other people that were doing it. And I just felt like it was so close and I was just so close. And I surrounded myself with a lot of successful people, a lot of girls who were like already doing it. And so it made me feel close to it. I think that was like a big thing for me. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Ciara. All right, next up we have Shannon.
Hi, I'm Shannon. I'm from Mountainside, New Jersey, and I am 28 years old. My question is, once you started living more comfortably in the commercial world, what are some things that you think made you stand out during auditions?
So like Menina was saying, first of all, the audition process never gets easier, right? But I think you figure out what works for you. You figure out the ebb and flow of like what works for you in those rooms. And I think it's just like the more you audition, the more you kind of get comfortable and like know yourself and know what your weaknesses are and know what your strengths are and stuff like that. And I think, once you book a few jobs, it does give you that extra layer of confidence. I think you're like, okay, I've done it before. I can do it again. You know what I mean? And then like, you just kind of gain confidence the more you do it, the more jobs that you are on. And I think having that affirmation of like, okay, like I can do this, I've done it, I can do it again. I think that helped me a lot. And also just going into everything with no ego. I've talked about this before. And I think like going into the room, not having this attitude of I got this energy kept me very focused. I never went in being like, oh, I got this. This is going to be easy in the bag. No, I went knowing like I'm going to work for this. I'm going to battle any girl that's in my way. I'm going to go for blood. I'm going to like fight for this. And I never got comfortable like thinking like, oh, I had it in the bag. So I think like that consistent, like hard work of no ego, I think like that is powerful.
Thank you so much, Shannon. All right. Next up, we have Madison.
Hi, my name is Madison Micha. I'm 15 years old and I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. My question is, what advice would you give to someone that wants to follow in your footsteps to have a professional dance career?
I think one thing that helped me was having a really good relationship with my agent. I think that I was so in communication with them all the time. And I think like you have to remember like your agency works for you. And I think like sometimes we forget that. And so you have to take your career, know what you want to do, know that you can reach out to your agents and be like, hey, this is what I want to do. And maybe you hear about an audition that you didn't get called to, like call your agent and be like, hey, why didn't I get called to this audition? Like, was it a height requirement? Was it like, only blondes? Was it this? Was it that? Like always being in communication. Cause I think the more information that you have from them, like the more you can like learn and the more you can be like, okay, well, is there something I can improve on? Is there something like, is it my pictures? Is it this? Like, what can I do to like get into every room? So I think a big thing is being in communication and having like a good relationship with your agent. That helped me a lot. And then, like I said, I think just continuing to forever be a student, even once you're booking and you're on these jobs and you're a working dancer, I think you're always, needing to remain a student and improving your craft and like being the best version of yourself at all times. I think for me, like I was always wanting to be better. I never really got comfortable and felt like I just had made it, because even the best dancers in the world, like there's always room for improvement and there's always new people coming in for your jobs. So I think just really holding yourself to a standard of excellence at all times and staying current. If there's like a new style or a new thing, like always staying current and being a sponge and learning. And just like, it goes back to that vein of always being a student, no matter how, long you've been in the industry and how many jobs you've booked. I think it's just like really always working on yourself.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Madison.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Madeline.
Hi, my name is Madeline. I'm 26 years old and I live in Southern California. And my question is, how did you land an agency coming from an only classical background on your resume?
That's funny. I think we were talking about this earlier, but when I came out here and I'd given myself that 1 year, they had open auditions at the time, and it was only like once or twice a year. And I didn't have that luxury of time. So I went into the agency, I had a meeting with them, and I basically harassed them into coming and watching me take this class at the Dome with Shane Sparks. That was kind of my introduction. I was being very pushy. And that goes back to what I was saying before about like really communicating with your agent, like letting them know what you want, what you need. But I also know that nowadays it is very different to get an agent. Like when I got my agency, that was like over 20 years ago, so I know that things are very different. So now, being a teacher and working with the agents a lot, actually, just through like makeup, and they come to my class, like I think a great way to get an agent is finding a teacher or like some kind of like mentor and having a referral. I know that seems to be very effective with getting signed these days. Like I know the agents come to my class sometimes and they'll just scout in my class, or like we've done a few industry nights where, like they'll have a hip hop teacher, a heels teacher, and they'll scout talent. And so like, I think there are more opportunities, like, again, because I think for a while there was like no auditions and no in-person stuff. So it was getting hard, but I think now they are kind of coming back around, coming to classes, like getting more in-person opportunities. But I think the main way to get an agent these days is by a referral from someone that like, can vouch for you and put in a good word for you and stuff like that. And the other thing that I will say is that agents have come to my class, they've seen amazing talents. I've told my students to reach out to them, follow up, send an email, and they do. And they sometimes will get an email back saying like, hey, like you're great, but we're not signing anyone right now. So if you do come into that situation where they say like, not right now, don't take that as like a forever no. Continue to reach back out, maybe in 6 months, in 3 months, whatever it is, because I've had students of mine reach out. They didn't get the first time. They reached out again, maybe 3 to 6 months later, and they did get signed. So I think it's timing, but it's also like being persistent, taking your future, your career into your own hands and not being afraid to ask for what you want and be like, I don't want to say pushy, but there is like an aggressive note in there that I think that you can really be loud and confident about what you want, and to like not take the no and just like take the no, just like keep trying. And yeah, but finding a referral, I think, is like the most effective way these days.
So Madeline, get your marketing materials, your homework done, and then we can talk about that referral. Because Madeline, like you, is a ballet classically trained dancer that wants to transition into the commercial world. So she's where you were at 20 years ago. So
I love that. I love that. I think also showing up as a ballet dancer and saying like, I have this like amazing ballet skill, but then also being amazing at hip hop blows their mind even more. It's like a wow factor because they think like when I told my agents, like I've been in this ballet company for the last 8 years and I've trained ballet my whole life, blah, blah, blah. I think when they came to see me in Shane Sparks, hip hop class, I think that they were expecting to see a ballet dancer doing hip hop, right? But I think that when you're really good at hip hop as well, it's more of like a wow factor. So use that to your advantage of being diverse.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much, Madeline. All right. Next up, we have Skylar.
Hi, I'm Skylar Caldwell. I'm 13 years old and I'm from Sarasota, Florida. And my question is, since there's like so many amazing dancers in an audition, how would you like separate yourself from being just like a dancer? How would you make yourself more than just a dancer?
That's a great question. I think on top of just like the raw talent of it all, I think nowadays, like your look is really important. I think knowing how to dress for your body type, I think knowing how to do your hair and makeup is a big thing. Just knowing how to present yourself as a star. Right. Like it's like so important to walk into the room and look the part as opposed to them having to be like, wow, she's a really great dancer, but I don't know. Do I really see her on stage behind Beyonce? I don't know. So you kind of have to give them the whole package. So I think, like I said, knowing how to do your hair and makeup is a big thing, knowing how to dress for your body type and, having that star quality and that confidence is huge. It's a lot about the energy. Sometimes you don't have to be the best dancer in the room, but when you're confident and you're a showman, you know how to perform, you know how to like make eye contact. That goes a long way because you're memorable. You're not just like a great dancer doing the steps. But here's the thing, walking into a room and just saying like, go be confident, girl. It's like, you're like, wait, how? How do I do that? Because they're like we talked about before, auditions are nerve-wracking. There's a lot going on. We're responsible for so much in those rooms. So I think for me, I wasn't always the most confident and I had to work on that. But for me, I had this great like fake it till you make it poker face attitude where I walked in and I was just like, oh, I got this. Like I looked on the outside like I was cool as a cucumber, but inside like I was like low-key dying and I was always like nervous. But that's natural. Give yourself grace. Be like, okay, this is scary. This is nervous, like, or this is nerve-wracking and all of the things. But you have to like be a character. You have to like go in with this like facade of just like confidence and you got this. And like I said, knowing how to dress, knowing how to do your hair and makeup and looking the part are all going to equate to like you standing out in those rooms.
In that star quality. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Skylar. All right. Next up, we have Alexandria.
Hi, I'm Alexandria Najee. I'm 14 years old and I'm from Detroit, Michigan. And my question is, what do you wish you had known when you were first starting out in your dance career?
I think that like for me, I have always struggled with self-confidence. Like I've always doubted myself and felt like, am I good enough? Strong enough as a dancer? Am I pretty enough? Am I this enough? Am I that? And I think what I wish I could have instilled in myself earlier is believing in myself and believing that those opportunities that I was blessed with, that I really deserved to be there. I was picked for a reason and I was there because someone saw something in me. And I think I wish I would have loved myself more. Like, I don't know how else to say it. I just think I didn't believe in myself. And I think that it took some joy out of it because I was constantly like not thinking I was enough. And I think like, yes, the technique is important. And yes, the training and all of the preparation that we do to be a dancer. But I think there's also such importance in like our mental health and like really believing in yourself and loving yourself and knowing that like even if you don't get the job that for some like that you are still enough. And I think that's something that like I really struggled with and I wish I would have instilled that and focused on that more when I was younger.
Great advice. Thank you so much, Alexandria. All right, a couple more questions. We've got Ingrid.
Hello, I'm Ingrid Hernandez. I'm 19 and I reside in Riverside, California. My question is, did having the time frame, like the 1 year limit time frame, push your drive to pursue the career that you wanted? Was it like an inspiration or a motivation to achieve it faster?
Yeah, I think that for me, okay, everyone's journey and everyone's path is so different. I've seen amazing, talented dancers come out here and not get signed for literally years. And then all of a sudden, like, they get signed or they get a job and that job leads them to get signed and then they blow up and they have
Trisha
amazing.
Miranda.
Oh, really?
Trisha Miranda. When I interviewed her, I didn't realize she was in LA for 4 years.
See, like, that's crazy because you just think of Trisha and you think like, oh, she probably walked out here and got signed like that.
Nope. She had 4 years in LA and Beyonce's tour was the big break. And then everything else just exploded.
And then people were like chasing after her. Yeah, no. So it's hard to say because everyone's, like I said, everyone's journey and everyone's path is so different. But I think for me, like I said, I was already a little bit older. I felt like I was walking away from this ballet career that I had put my life into, that my parents had they had sacrificed so much for me. So I think it benefited me, to be honest, putting that time frame on myself because I didn't let a day go by where like I wasn't productively and like seeking after my goals. And it just kind of lit the fire under my butt, to be honest, to like never take a day off and to like pursue what I was out here to pursue. I wasn't out, like hanging out with friends and like making new friends. And this is my fun new life in LA. It wasn't like that for me. I was very much like focused in class every day, trying to make the connections, trying to get signed, trying to get a job. And for me, it did benefit me. But that's not to say that like if you come out here and you don't start working in the first year, that you should go home. I'm not saying that at all. I just think that everyone's journey is so different. But I do think coming out here and staying completely focused on what you want to do and not getting sidetracked on getting a job and doing, I mean, I'm not saying to not get a job. I'm just saying sometimes you get a job and then you get comfortable working at, Lululemon or Starbucks or whatever, and you're making money and you're living comfortably. And sometimes the goal and the real reason why you came out here gets a little less important. And I think for me, like there just was no looking back. There was no in between. There was no downtime. So for me, it helped me. It did help me. But like I said, if it doesn't happen for you right away, like it's okay. Keep going, but just stay super, super focused on the reason you came out here and like what you want to do. And don't let that kind of take a back seat.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Ingrid. All right. Next up, we have Stella.
Hi, my name's Stella DeFonte. I'm 14 years old from Eagle, Idaho. And my question is, what was your most memorable performance you had on tour with any artist?
Let's see. I think the two that stand out in my mind is Super Bowl with Beyonce and probably Coachella with Beyonce as well. I think like there's just something like I remember at the Coachella stage and that performance, there was a small group of dancers. There's probably like, I don't know, maybe 10 of us that started on the B stage. That was like literally in the middle of Coachella. Like we had to wear these like dark robes and get like ushered out into this other stage that was like in the middle of all of Coachella. And I just remember like going out there with my little robe and then like taking it off and like starting and like the music just like, it's just like that rush and you're just in the middle of the crowd and you're like right next to Beyonce. It's just those moments where you're like, wow, like I'll never forget that, I'll never forget those moments. And so, yeah, I have a few really special ones, but those are the two that stick out in my mind. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Stella.
Thank you.
And I think our last question of the night, let's go to Courtney.
Hi, my name is Courtney Bernaski. I'm 13 years old and I'm from Port Orchard, Washington. And my question is, do you have any advice for someone who lives in a small town but wants to move to LA or New York someday?
Yeah, I mean, I know that when you're young, it's like hard to just like move to these big places. But I would say like, if you can come visit, if you can like get to conventions and make relations with those teachers that are, on convention and maybe touring closer to you and getting that amazing training that's closer to you. And then, like I said, visiting LA or New York as much as possible and kind of getting a feel for the vibe out here and just like being in the room with like, the best of the best and like putting yourself up against those kids now before moving out here and just trying to kind of like wing it when you get here. So for me, like I wish I would have come to LA and spent more time here and just kind of had a feel of what it was going to be like before I just like closed my eyes and moved and just like figured it out when I got here. I think there's just so many like amazing opportunities with like mentorships and online programs and stuff that there's so much information that is so amazing and just like at your fingertips that I think like taking advantage of all of those online programs, going to any like cities close to you where you can get that training from like Brian Friedman and the greats and stuff like that. And then, visiting LA and New York and just kind of getting like, your foot wet before you are able to actually move out here. But yeah.
Absolutely. No, great advice. Yeah, we didn't have stuff like this where we could chit chat from the comfort of our own homes and be able to meet legends in the dance world. It just wasn't a thing. Like we had to physically get in the room to meet these people. So Courtney, you have the advantage and everyone here has the advantage of doing whatever you can locally and traveling and plugging into the online programs to network and meet people and learn. That's beautiful. Well, on that note, Larke, do you have any final words before we close out?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you, Menina, for having me on and like just chatting with your group. And as far as like any last words, I mean, I think you guys are already ahead of the curve by investing in yourselves with this online program and learning from someone who's had a real career. And I think like continuing to really be picky, I guess I would say picky about who you train under and who you learn from. I think that will go a long way in the end of like who you study under. I think giving yourself grace if it doesn't happen for you right away, like just giving yourself grace and knowing that, everyone's journey is so different. It's hard not to, but try not to compare yourself to other people because I think it's just like there's no benefit in it because everyone's journey is so different. So continue to surround yourself with great people, with people who've had the careers that you want to eventually have, and just know that there's going to be a lot of like no's and this is not like, an easy thing, but have resilience and tough skin. And, just always remember why you started the love of dance. It's like why we started this in the first place. So just kind of keep that love close to your heart, forever be a student, no matter how long you've been in the business. I think forever being a student. And then, surrounding yourself, having a good support system is key.
On behalf of the business of dance, let's give some virtual love to Larke. Yay! And way over time, this definitely became a very in-depth conversation. And I don't know if you probably can't read the chats. I took a little screenshot I'll share with you, Larke. You got lots of love in the chat.
What a great group. What a great group of girls. Wow. Incredible. So cool to see you doing your thing and like giving back. So congratulations to you as well.
Well, thank you. It's our time. We had our time as dancers and now it's time to give back and to pass on the torch and share all of our learning experiences, the good, the bad, the ugly, and hope that they can learn from us and also learn what to do, what not to do from our mistakes and all of that as well. But thank you for sharing your journey with us and such a colorful journey that you've had in dance and such a unique story as well. I've interviewed a lot of people. Very few have a past like yours. I think it's also very inspiring because we do have a very mixed crowd here between ages and dance genres, and everyone has their own unique path. So it's really important that we bring in people like you that can offer a different perspective. And it looks like from the chat, everybody was really inspired and you were eye-opening for many of them. And we thank you for your time, your knowledge, your wealth, your wisdom, your heart, and keep doing what you're doing. I love that we were able to intersect in this crazy world of dance, even though we don't physically see each other in the flesh as much. I know I see you online doing your thing and keep shining bright. And
yeah, no, what a great way to reconnect. And so, yeah, I love seeing you, and I love just sharing any kind of knowledge. And if anything, helps anyone, then I feel really good. So thank you so much for having me on, and hopefully we'll talk more and not have to wait another 10 years to talk again.
Yes.
We need a full reunion, with all of us.
I know. It's we all go separate ways. I don't even live in LA anymore. That's the crazy part. I only come for visits on occasional projects here and there. So it's thanks to the internet. That's the only way I feel like I'm able to see what people are doing. If I didn't live in LA and there was no social media, I would have no clue what you were doing. So,
I know. Social media is a powerful thing. So good. I'm so glad we've reconnected.
Yes, I'm glad. You can thank Aaliyah as well, because she gave you the shout out. That was what intrigued me. I was like, wait a minute, I haven't interviewed Larke yet. Let me see.
Yeah. Shout out to Aaliyah. Oh my gosh.
Aaliyah,
that's so funny.
She was the one that she made a list of, someone had asked her, what choreographers do you recommend taking class from in LA? And she gave you a shout out. And then I was like, wait a minute.
I love that.
I need to interview you, Larke. You've been in the game a long time. So
long time.
And that's why this interview went a little bit longer.
I know. Sorry about that. My story is 9 lives.
It's okay. I feel like you also needed to release it, because you don't really get a platform to be able to just share.
It's funny. A lot of people don't even know about my ballet background, which is such a big part of my story.
Now it's out. It's out, and we can share this, and you can share this with your students and followers as well, so they can hear the side of the story that you probably don't get a chance to talk to in class.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
You don't have time to talk about this stuff. So dancers, make sure that you reach out to Larke. Larke, do you want to give us your handle real quick so that they know how to reach you?
Yes. So my Instagram is Alotta Larke, which is ALOTTALARKE. And I would love to answer any more questions or connect with you guys. And when you do come to LA, I would love to have you in class, get you guys right. So I would love to meet and connect with all of you guys. So feel free to reach out.
I love that. All right. Well, thank you, Larke. Thank you, everyone. And see you next time.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye.
And that concludes another episode of the Business of Dance podcast.
We hope you found today's conversation insightful and gained valuable knowledge.
Be sure to join us next time for more inspiring interviews with top professionals in the dance industry.
If you enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to The Business of Dance on your favorite platform and take a moment to leave a review. Your feedback is greatly appreciated.
This podcast is brought to you by the Business of Dance online mentorship program to help aspiring professional dancers create their dream dance careers.
Thank you for listening. Until next time.